You're messing with the mic.
Oh, sorry.
Welcome back to another edition of Silent Sirens. I'm your host, Thomas Orness, and we're going to recap the Kansas game on last Friday. We're going to...
Made the trip to Kansas City.
Made the trip.
Saw the biggest hotel room I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, there was the hotel and the Marriott there where the team stays. We always overtake that every time we're in Kansas City. The lobby is always 95% of the Iowa State fans, probably throughout the whole day. And you could just tell the Kansas, then any other, like Kansas was there, you could tell the Kansas fans were just like so annoyed. Just like,
Yeah.
I feel like we just always, if we can't, like Kansas is there, they always sell out, but they're not as loud about it as we are, obviously, because they have won and their fan base is, but then behind, obviously they created the damn sport for God's sakes. So yeah, and like, just they've like their fans are like either really nice or like they're really snarky kind. I feel like
we got stuck behind some snarky ones.
Yeah, we got stuck behind some snarky ones, but there was literally a Kansas fan sitting next to me that he had a friend who was a Kansas State fan. He had to switch spots because I think he was gonna get annoyed with us because we kept her kind of vocal about what our thoughts were about the. Especially when Kansas, like we made our thoughts about like the FBI stuff and how they cheated for a good 20 years and. Got exactly. Bill Self was suspended for four games of the start of the season, which the most irrelevant irrelevant part of the season he gets suspended for, which I think is kind of hilarious. But obviously, I haven't heard any updates on his health or what is he going to coach in the NCAA tournament. I haven't heard anything, so hopefully, ever since I haven't seen it on social media, hopefully everything's positive and he's out of the hospital and could coach in the NCAA tournament because
we heard the rumor around what was going on, and it's not life threatening by any means, but it is a big deal. And so I'm not going to say what we were told down there, but I mean, I'm sure he's fine. I think he'll be with him at the NCAA tournament. He might not be as
because like the presence, like even getting the tell at just one game without Bill Self, like there's no like the presence of the Bill Self on the sideline. You can tell like even with the crowd, I feel like he brings another element to the. Because the crowd was really not a factor, I don't think, in the game on Friday because it was like basically Allen Fieldhouse with a patch of Iowa State fans. Honestly, I was kind of shocked with the turnout. Honestly, it's kind of because Kansas was really good, and I feel like, especially, not to bring up the pandemic, but I feel like just think of like the length of time like some of these Kansas fans if they didn't go to last year or like the year before they haven't gone to these games, and I feel like there's so many more Kansas fans or basketball because it's a national brand because it's Kansas, and I think there's a lot more Kansas fans and but I don't think it kind of affected the atmosphere, and I don't think it rattled our players at all. I think Taman played really good. I think Ward keeps on earning more minutes, and I think that's great for our team. And I think it was literally just it was kind of like a Sweet 16 Elite E8 type atmosphere, which is going to be hopefully there. We can play there a couple weeks or so because that will be a madhouse. So Blaine Kinson was the names for a long time.
It said 2 years. I mean, isn't he the one that went back to Florida?
Because he had heart problems. He had heart problems and the whole deal, and because he was a stretch four, which we're finally trying to get because Prom obviously had lots of problems with our roster, and he would have brought in a lot of offensive. Like obviously saw last night, he could shoot and he only took 3
threes.
So he could play on offense, and I don't know if he can defend the way TJ wanted him to. And obviously we have Robert Jones and Shinity and Ward, who obviously are the complete opposite of type of player of Hinson is, which is not a negative thing because I think Ward and Robert Jones could bring a lot to would be a reason why we could have a big run in March because they have such of annoying just like looking as if I was playing a basketball player going to defend them, it'd be really annoying to play against them because they are athletic. They do the dirty work. They're not here to do obviously Ward can do like some dunks and blocks, and some tip and dunks, but he brings in like length and the way you can press. And
you talking about Ward still? Yeah. So I mean, Blake Hinson was, he jacked up a Hail Mary 3, which was a big shot to get him up 6, towards the end of the game. And even Jeff Capel, who got fired at Oklahoma, by the way, he was saying, that was a kind of a prayer shot. But then he said in the postgame, he's been doing it all year, which kind of said to me, he's been taking bad shots all year. I mean, so
yeah.
So anyway, I mean, there was nothing that Pitt did that made me nervous. They've got the 2 7-footers that are twins. One of them had no rebounds last night. They're, skinnier than most of the average post players we've got.
That white post player they have looks like the Gonzaga player that
Chet Holmgren.
Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, it's a twin. They got 2 of them. They're brothers.
Really?
I mean, and the one brother that comes off the bench didn't have a rebound. He was 0 for 1 from the field and played 5 minutes. And so, I mean, I don't know if they're switching jerseys at halftime.
Both the teams, like Mississippi State, showed that they can be held to very low scoring because it's a low scoring game. And obviously, Dayton is a terrible place, and obviously we think that because Aaron Craft hit a shot that broke our hearts, obviously. And I just that's such a weird place to choose to start off the tournament.
So explain to me this. Last night, Pitt and Mississippi State were 11 seeds.
Yep.
Why are the 11 seeds in the so-called play-in game? Why isn't it 2 16 seeds?
Because
it makes no sense.
Because I think more TV quality and the games.
But it makes no sense. I mean, if it's truly a playing game, you're supposed to be the last 2 teams in the tournament. It should be the last 2 teams into the tournament, not 2 11 seeds. It makes no sense.
It's not about what makes sense. It's about what makes money.
Right, exactly. But I mean, so then get rid of the game, or just stop calling it the first 4. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, if I was an 11 seed, wouldn't you be mad as hell that you got to play an extra game?
Yeah.
But the 16 seed doesn't have to? I mean, you got 2 16 seeds that don't have to play an extra game.
But the 16 seeds also go into the tournament knowing that they've only had one exact win. There's only had one 16 seed to win one. They win a game.
Right, but why are you making it? So let's make it 2 4 seeds. I mean, what's the point? I don't get it.
Because it's like in the bubble. Like, it's like the people that have to earn themselves in. It's like, I think it's kind of like the CBS and like I think the people that are making decisions obviously are kind of like the same people that's what I'm thinking about is like Survivor. Like you have to earn your way in. You know what I mean? Like
so the reason they're doing is because the 16 seeds were a conference tournament champion or a conference champion. That's the reason they're not in the playing game. So what's the point of the seeding then? I mean, so you're trying to figure out the 2 best 11 seeds that are going to play in the playing game. It just doesn't make logic to me. I mean,
you say that
if these 2 teams are better than a 16 seed,
but I'm pretty sure the only time that 11 seed has ever made that Final Four is when the playing game thing.
But
started.
Who cares? But if you're an 11 seed, you're 5 seeds better than a 16 seed.
Yeah.
Why do you have to play an extra game? Because that's what they're saying. They're saying that these 2 teams are both better.
You're telling me that
the 12, 13, 14 seeds.
I don't know.
They don't have to play an extra game. They get a few more days off too. Doesn't make any sense.
Any system that really runs anything in this country,
let's not go down that road.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, so it doesn't. Yeah, so I mean,
we're talking about the NCAA here, who had to be. The government had to come in and like say, hey, okay, the players can make money, and then literally just blew up the sport.
Right. Yeah.
Transfers. It literally was like the pandemic is like, okay, all these schools are gonna be financially struggling. How are we gonna help these athletic departments? Oh, let's just make it their life a holy hell and just blow up the sport. Yeah. And like already these athletic departments have had to do budget cuts and like figure out how they're gonna run things. Also on top of the NIL,
NILs. Everybody's got to come up with their own we will version. I mean,
Jamie Pollard, thank God for him because if we did not have a rock solid rock like him and on the AD front, I think Iowa State would not be in the position it is now.
Agreed.
Because we were really close to losing Matt Campbell, I think, just allegedly, and having Jamie there to negotiate and we getting TJ back. Obviously, Pollard wanted him in the first place was like obviously vetoed last time, but now that Leaf guy is gone and we have TJ and who know, like just saying like that organization who waited so long until it was like 3 feet to the fire. Like we're changing the whole sport, and now I feel like the tournament is like the last thing that's not messed up. And obviously, the first four is kind of like very like money grab type game. It's very money grab. It's in Dayton. Like obviously, if they're gonna do money grab, make it better. Just make it more cool. Put in the garden or put it like somewhere.
Anybody out there ever been to Dayton?
Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, when we pulled into Dayton to watch Tyrus and George and those guys driving by hotels that are boarded up.
But I'm saying I'm not saying the town is terrible, but it is terrible. But like, it's not what you're expecting to. Like, if you finally make the NCAA tournament, especially these programs that are making for the first time, they get sent to Dayton, Ohio, to be on a game on Tuesday night and be in a town where there's 3 restaurants and there's absolutely nothing to do. Like, we were there, like, unless they completely changed it since 2013.
Don't think it happened. I mean, but it's not. I mean, I'm not taking a shot at Dayton. I kind of am, but it's not their fault that they're having the games. But you're right. I mean, there's got to be a better venue to put it in, or better. I mean, it was. So, I mean, I'm speaking on both sides of my mouth here, but you got to give the Dayton people credit. I mean, it was still tons of people in that stadium. I mean, we're going to see a lot of regionals.
Like the arena itself is sick, but it's not meant for.
Do you remember the party bus we took to get to there? I mean,
like the high level version of basketball, which college basketball should be, and like this should be like the mecca. Like should be like in the mecca of basketball. Like obviously the Knicks can't exactly show like what. They just can't play to be like, and obviously the Big East is no longer there. They're there for the tournament, but it's not exactly what it used to be. Right. And like that was like a huge part of college basketball's history, and like that's like there's so much history in the Garden. I feel like obviously having it somewhere else, I think would help.
Go, if a few hours down the road and put an assembly hall in Indiana.
And like in your thing, have it make sense. Like okay, if the 16 seeds don't have to play it in a game, all right. They're automatically in. Like, if they're gonna make it a money grab, make it at least more entertaining for the viewer. Like, putting it on TBS or True TV.
Yeah, right.
And like,
that's another.
And like
thing.
These announcers, not the high level announcers are doing it. Obviously, Avery Johnson's like a great coach, great player.
Yeah, exactly.
But him listening to him and like some other, obviously, I'm not just pointing out him like I am right now, but. I am right now, but like there's so many like just the bar is not very high when it comes to that the commentary, and like thank God Bill Raftery's still hanging around, and like but like
and Fran is doing an NIT game tonight, I think.
Oh really? Yeah, which Fran not doing the Big 12
he's doing the Wisconsin game, I think. Yeah,
Fran not doing the Big 12 championship game was like kind of a travesty. I think him and Dick Vitale should have like been sitting next to each other, kind of like the Final Four, where
that would have been fun.
Like I don't know why, but. Maybe Fran and Dick Vitale have a beef. I don't.
So
think
what did Fran? So something just happened with Fran that he got in a Twitter spat with Dan Dockich.
Oh, really?
And so then I can't remember exactly what something happened on Twitter where Dan and Fran were talking crap back and forth about the Big Ten or something, and so then some St. Louis writer took him as not talking crap or not just tongue in cheek and made it a story, and then Fran had to respond to it on Twitter. It's crazy, but anyway. So getting back to my original point, it doesn't make any sense that you're going to put 2 11 seeds in the playing game. If that's, I know they don't want to play it. Fran doesn't want to call it the playing game. Nobody else wants to call it the playing game. But why make an 11 seed play an extra game? I'm open to hearing why. It doesn't make any sense.
And also, it really hurts like the preparation for the 6 seeds to go play.
Right.
Like Iowa State has to now prepare on a short notice, and we beat how many goddamn 10 teams on the top 10 teams to be in the tournament. Now you can't plan for the team like every other person in the country.
Right.
And like we beat Kansas at home, we swept Baylor. Like we honestly kind of got robbed in the seeding, I think, low key, because the Big 12 was kind of not respected like the way it should have been in the tournament.
We'll find out fast tomorrow.
No, I think Kansas should have been the number 1 seed. Like putting Alabama in the number 1 seed, especially like just looking at the past of like Iowa State not being a 1 seed with Pfizer, Marcus. Like I just like the committee. Like obviously those people are probably either dead or gone because those people are old or in the care center listening to us probably, hopefully. I'm saying those
put
people.
Their mask on.
I'm saying those. Yeah. Yeah, like the Kansas fan in front of us. So
let's not go down that road.
God love her. Just celebrating high five and all, but oh well.
Yeah. So I mean, what did you say a little while ago about?
Which one?
You said something about I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so no, I don't disagree. I mean, there's a lot of things we could fix about it, but end of the day, we'll find out real fast if the Big 12 is the best conference in the country. Like they said.
Also going back to the playing game thing, I'm just thinking out I just thought of it because I didn't really think it was a huge deal until you brought it up. Because I'm just thinking, obviously it's not huge. It's it should start the the tournament out in a bang. Just the way right now, it's kind of just a big dud. Unless it's like a buzzer beater and just even close game last night.
They're both good games, but I disagree with you a little bit. I mean, it doesn't have to be Duke versus North Carolina in those two games. I mean, it's kind of a way to ease into Thursday and Friday. So Texas Corpus Christi being in the game makes sense. Fairleigh Dickinson is in tonight, who has a strong Iowa connection that we can talk about later that I know a little bit about. And so, those are all playing games, true playing games. But to me, the 11 seed thing just doesn't make any sense. But
I'm thinking also there should be I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking there should be the playing game should be with the bubble teams.
Yes,
should
exactly.
Be
Oklahoma State should,
especially the teams that lose in the conference game early. There should be a little turn before so there's something to do. There has to be a theme of what's going on. It's just they just kind of just threw it out there just for the viewership. And I think obviously it was probably the True TV and the when they had that deal back in the day. There was all right, there has to be some more content for us because we have some it has to kick off somehow because we can't just come out and
play L.A. or Law and Order from 1998 again. I mean, but anyway, we can beat that.
Going back to
so what's your go ahead?
What
were you gonna say?
I'm saying they could the last chance dance thing, not even put it at a venue, putting it at the teams at the home games.
That would be awesome.
Especially the NIT kind of captures this, which I think the NCAA tournament could capture it by making this random idea that I'm just thinking of right now. Is when Jake Sullivan had his senior day and then he had the NIT when he made the NIT, he thought it was his last game in Hilton, but then he made the NIT.
Right.
He came back. He's all right, I have one more chance to show out at the that would be an element to bring to the playing game if they put it at the
NIT does it still,
especially these lower tier teams that don't have the fan base like Iowa State does and Duke and Kentucky that make the year. The fan base alone can be a huge reason why a team makes a tournament just based on their home crowd and it just pushes wins. I feel and I feel the teams that UCF and the rural those schools that don't have they have a huge enrollment, but they don't have a huge huge crazy
a lot
environment.
Of commuters
and that would be a huge one game to move on. That'd be absolutely crazy.
Totally makes sense.
And I think that'd be way better than putting in Dayton, Ohio, and
put Pitt at Mississippi State last night.
It'd be absolutely madhouse.
And put somebody Corpus Christi for the love of God.
Yeah, these 16 seeds would be crazy.
I mean, can you imagine having Corpus Christi having a home game for the NCAA tournament?
Especially the way the weather works. The weather works. Yeah, it's going to be spring, and especially some of these towns where it's just they get outside and those tailgates and I think that would be a great thing to do, but that will never happen ever. So there's no reason
unless they can figure out a way to make money on it.
Yeah,
that's the end of the day.
Because especially this it would be great for the sport just to light some fire under it. Because right now I don't think there's the college basketball is great, but I think it kind of limps into the tournament. There's really no there's a regular season, there's the start of it's there's a lot of the Malibu tournament, there's Duke, Kentucky playing each other, and obviously teams are very trying to get it together in the non-conference, and we play teams to fund their athletic budgets,
right?
And we I think there's an opportunity to put more life in sport because there's no Zion Williamson, there's no Trey Young, they're basing it off of the tournament having close games and having cool stories, which happens every year, but I think
here's the story.
What?
Here's a story that I forgot about for a second. So at the Alabama SEC's conference championship game, there was a guy that had a T-shirt on that said on the back of it, Alabama killing their way through the SEC, and then the front of it said goats. And that guy was, defending himself.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Let's see if the NCAA truly has some teeth and how big of a deal they're going to make about the crap that's going on with that kid at Alabama right now.
They're the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean,
So
they're overall number 1 seed, and it's Baylor 2.0 from the year 1998 or whatever that happened with Baylor. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, so yeah, I mean, that really, I couldn't believe it. I showed that to your mom. I mean, it was just so bizarre that they let this kind of go and they're not really talking about it too much. I mean, and obviously we live in a country that, you're innocent until you're proven guilty, but this is, he said he had the gun. I mean, so what are we going to do? I mean, so let's move on. So are we going to beat Pitt? Are we going to beat Pitt? That's the end of the day.
Well, I don't know. I've only seen exactly about, I watched some of the game last night, but I wasn't like dived into it because it was kind of a,
well, I watched the whole thing.
So especially like being a viewership wise, like teams that have like play like us, like obviously I love Iowa State and like I love how TJ coaches and plays, but just like as a viewership wise, if you're not cheering for that team, like just like how rugged that Mississippi State team was, and
fighting Shane Powers.
I think that was a good warm up to what they're gonna get for us, and I think either. Because especially their posts being so skinny, and I feel like they're not. Just looking at the game last night, they're not exactly as tough as Robert Jones and like Oshuni. Obviously, was not exactly tough against Kansas. I'll say that very confidently. He did not exactly have a great game. He's had a great season. We really need him to show up because he needs to hit those bunnies. Because he had a guy who was shorter than like 4 inches behind him. You have to hit those hook shots that are right in the rim, and those bunnies add up. And like. All it takes is a couple of huge runs, and we were out of the game. And I think that can't happen in the tournament. We need to hit the bunnies, and I think the offense or defense are going to be there. That's the most confident thing about. Yeah. That's the thing about the Otzelberger era versus the Hoiberg era. In the tournament, one thing's going to show up: the defense. The Hoiberg era, you had no idea what was going to happen.
Well, I mean, so I agree with you 100%. I mean. I actually was thinking about Oshun during that game last night. I think he can score against those post players. I don't think Pitt has any idea. Mississippi State is good on defense. They are not as good as us. I mean, that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. I mean, I never saw. Just give you guys, Iowa State fans out there, an example. How many games have you seen this year where we intercept a pass in their half court offense? It happens all the flipping time.
How demoralizing that is.
Because we're in position, we rotate, and then Taman's intercepting a pass or Jaron's intercepting a pass. Did not happen once with Mississippi State. And Pitt scored 60 points. So I think if we can play Iowa State, Otzelberger ball, I like to call it Otza grinder ball because we grind you out. And, it was talking about how Pitt was a great 3-point shooting team. They shot it well last night, but they were 9 for 19. So that's not going to be, and that's not a deal breaker with the way we play defense. And they got 11 points off their bench. They basically played 6 guys. The other twin of the 7-footer played 5 minutes, and that was it. They only played 2 other guys, and so I feel pretty good about it. I mean, obviously it's just one game, but. Just watching the way they play, knowing, maybe the way Jeff Capel performed at Oklahoma, I don't think. And then they've got to, they had to go home. They're going to travel to Greensboro. That's a thing too. It's going to be, you don't know if the weather's going to script their flights or any of that kind of stuff. So, I feel pretty confident about it. I mean, I think probably if I had to make a prediction, the first 10 minutes for us is not going to go well. I mean, we just need, because we're going to have to acclimate ourselves to the NCAA tournament again. If we can get to halftime, at the least -5, we're in great shape. We go to halftime at -15, obviously, is a problem, but I just don't see that happening.
I think the first 2 rounds really will bold on how Lipsy and Gabe play. Right. If Gabe shows up and hits shots, that's the only way I don't think we should come out slow and like. Him, the way he played against Wisconsin and the LSU game, and
the neutral court game.
The neutral court game where he just literally, I don't know what it is about him. He just lights a fire on his butt and he plays his defense. And he had a lot of good shots against Kansas too. And Jared Holmes he's strong and a veteran. He's been around forever. He's a grown man, and having grown men in the NCAA tournament does really well for us, and I think especially just the way we looking back on the non-conference, we beat obviously North Carolina, #1 team, who's not even the freaking tournament. But I'm saying just like on the back then, but like going into that game, knowing you're playing the #1 team in the country, having that under our belt, we won that game. Go to play the #1 seed against Kansas on basically a home game, and we really left that game with momentum. I feel like because we're going the right direction. Our offense is not exactly clicking at right now, but it's not exactly the worst it's been. It's like kind of in the middle. I feel like we could, if we just run sets and like, especially the way TJ has some set plays and Lipsy just can't lose his head, and I feel like he hasn't done that. I don't have any reason why he's going to, but I feel like sometimes in the year where he does lose his head is when it really dominoes in the wrong direction, because he is a huge part of our team, and so is Gabe, and so is Jaron Holmes. And I feel like as long as Robert Jones doesn't just go turn the ball over and just play within his role, which I think he has done way more in the last 2 weeks, which is I think very positive, and I think that's why he's in the starting lineup. And I think because he really brings this is what you do and know your role. And I think there's a bunch of people on our team that have a struggle sometimes with that, and I think we're at a right. What's that?
I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think having Ward the way he's playing, having Robert Jones not playing at his worst in his year, and having his experience in the NCAA tournament last year, people forget. Yeah, people complain about him a lot this year, but how many post players in Iowa State history have bodied up a 7-footer who's taller than you in Wisconsin in basically a home game for him, and do a hook shot on him and do you're shorter than, he's shorter than you, running down the court, and leading us to the Sweet 16 and like that is just something in my head. I'll always remember Robert Jones. Like, obviously he's gonna continue on with that. Obviously, I think every temperature in the room is like he's coming back next year. I feel like I don't know. That's what I always remember Robert Jones, and he has experience in the tournament, and we have Gabe who has experience, and it'll be. I think this might be Jaron Holmes' first NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might be. Yeah,
and
Ashuni's first. Yeah.
So
so I think you're talking about Taman, having those moments where he loses his mind. He's had them this year.
Yeah,
and he's learned from it.
Yeah,
and so I'm glad that happened earlier in the year than tomorrow or Friday. Excuse me. So I think that's an advantage for us because he grew up when that happened. He didn't do it. And, the thing about the Kansas game is that when we played Kansas and they did a really good job on Gabe, you're giving Bill Self 2 games to scout Gabe and, all last year too, and to make adjustments. And they did a good job of it. And so now we're going to a team that has never played against us before, never actually, there's a lot to be said for, scouting is scouting, but you have to actually be on the floor to gauge how quick somebody is, which hand they use better, how do they score, are they turning left, are they turning right? I mean, that 1-3-1, how many 1-3-1s has Pitt seen? I mean, I saw the coach in the first game last night was talking about SEMO, Southeast Missouri, had played 5 possessions of zone the last 6 games total, and they played a ton of zone at the end of the game last night. Wow. And so that was a curveball he got thrown at him. And so I think that 1-3-1, we're probably going to put a couple wrinkles in it maybe. So I feel pretty good about it. We shoot the ball decent. You can take this to the bank. We hold Pitt to 60 or under like happened last night, we win.
We can't. My worry is whenever we look up the scoreboard and we have 50 points and there's 8 minutes left and we just can't make a shot, and whenever there's 3 or 4 possessions in a row where it's what in the hell is we doing? Yeah, especially when we run sets and the shot clock goes down, and sometimes there's been a couple times where we don't even realize the shot clock's going down. Right. The runs down, but I think Oshuni is a huge part of the game. I feel like, and him being an older person versus him being 18, going to his first tournament obviously is great, and I think he has it in him to really turn it on. I think if he just has a good 2 10-minute good stretches, we literally could be in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8.
Yeah, well, we need to get to Sunday. I mean, and hopefully we can pull it off, and TJ does TJ thing. So but we got to talk about the women. We were down in Kansas City. We didn't stay. We just budget wise we just plain ass couldn't afford it. That's the bottom line. But watching our girls play in that game, our guards are so tough.
Mm-hmm.
And you saw Lexi Donarski get shoved out of bounds by one of the Texas guards and just kind of smiles like, is that the best you got? I mean, it was so funny. I mean, then she went kind of running by the ref saying, did you see that? And then she got hit in the face one time, and they called a foul on her. And she goes, how was that on me? As she's smiling, as she's holding her face. So, and then the other part is, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name. One of our post players got jacked in the mouth by the Texas post player. She has got tears running down her eyes and scores.
Yep.
And then runs down the other end, and they have to stop the game because she's holding her mouth like she's
bleeding.
Like she felt like she lost a tooth or something. But how tough is that?
Yeah.
I mean, she's got tears running down her eyes and still scores under duress under the basket, and then goes to the other end, and they have to stop the game. And then she comes in, and I feel bad that I can't remember her name.
Which is kind of funny because, like, knowing, like, not to bring it about, like, LeBron, like, would have been on the floor crying. Like, how many players would have just been bawling their eyes out and just, like, over dramatic. Like, so many players in college athletics, women or men, just get so dramatic whenever I feel like they do that. I feel like they're told to do that because, like, all right, they're gonna go to the monitor, and then maybe we can get a flagrant, and then we get some free throws.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Izzy's. I'm gonna butcher her name. Zingaro is her last name, and she was the one that she was so tough. I mean, she kind of got thrown into the mix a little more because of the injury with the Suarez girl. But another one is that, and I am going to butcher her name again. She's from Worthington, Nayar. I think I'm pronouncing it right. She is so tough, too. I mean, in the semifinal game, she was just splashing them from all over the place, and she likes to talk crap. I mean, our girls are, I mean, I just am thoroughly impressed with how tough they are, and it's a very entertaining version of basketball, and it was just so much fun. Unfortunately, we weren't there. I mean, and I agree with everybody is saying that it is a tragedy that they're not combining the men and the women's tournaments in the same week again. Like they're going to move it to the week by themselves because, man, there's some unbelievable crowds in the Municipal Center. And you know,
the thing I just thought of that maybe might be a reason that has not been talked about. I feel like on Twitter is maybe the reason is because like there's so many more fan bases going to be coming in next year. I feel like BYU, USCF,
like could
maybe
be.
There's not many hotels. They'd be maybe all right, maybe if this can be like maybe they get out to a point where like all right, we're not sure if we can have it in Kansas City. We might have to move it.
I hope they don't.
You know, maybe that's like the only thing I can rationale in my head is like maybe they're like maybe we have to plan like UCF, BYU have these huge fan bases like they're gonna come in and like if we have.
But UCF does not bring in many people. I mean, seriously, how many basketball fans are they going to bring in? BYU, maybe. Cincinnati will.
Yeah, BYU has a religion behind it, so they can be
take
good.
It easy. But I mean, UCF and UCF is not going to bring a ton of fans. And Houston will. I mean, so you probably have a point. I mean, I don't hope it's not a hotel thing. But
that's like the only thing I think.
I got a hotel room on Tuesday. So it wasn't an issue getting a room for us. I mean,
but I'm thinking he's playing down the road. Like the way he talks is like he wants to be like the Big East of the old, like be the where college basketball is. You go watch the Big 12.
So did you see the trophy ceremony when he presented the trophy to Bill Finley and he goes,
like
"Sorry, Texas, but this week has always been about Iowa State."
Yeah.
I mean, it was a direct jab to Texas saying, you know, get to the SEC and get out of here. But another funny thing that happened is that Morgan Kane during the game, I saw her mouth to one of her teammates. So that was total BS. Then she didn't abbreviate it BS. And then she looks at the ref because the ref hurt her, and then gives her a sarcastic smile, like, "Oh, I didn't mean that." She was trying to be nice too. I mean, it was so funny. But yeah, it was an unbelievable game. I was so happy for those girls. Got a chance to talk to Audie Crooks a couple days ago, face to face, and I told one of her coaches, I said, "Man, she is going to a situation with some unbelievable guards. I mean, you got Lexi Donarski and Emily Ryan coming in, and she's going to get you the ball. I mean, holy crap!" And so, by the way, all of you people out there that said Audie Crooks didn't play against good competition, well, their only loss this year was to Hopkins, Minnesota, which has Adrian Peterson's daughter on it and Chad Greenway's daughter on it. And they were a fantastic big school in Minnesota. That was the only team they lost to. And then I believe Bishop Garrigan beat Providence this year, which is a Minnesota team. And then I think Providence might have beat Hopkins. And so they weren't just playing small schools only in Iowa. They were playing some big-time schools. They go down to scrimmage, the CIML schools over Christmas. So I'm excited that Audie's going to have a great career at Iowa State. Obviously, she's going to be a freshman next year. There's going to be a learning curve. She's going to run into some girls that are as tall as she is, but super human being, super family from a lot of relatives in Fort Dodge, and I'm excited to watch her play. So I'm hoping that the Bill Finley train keeps going on the track, and I really think they got screwed on not having a 4 seed so they could host.
Yeah.
I mean, that was too bad. I mean, you go back and look at the way they decided it. I think the bottom line is the NCAA was just being lazy, and they had it figured out. Didn't think that we'd win the Big 12 tournament and could justify it, and then they said, "Oh well, we've already got it figured out, so we're not going to change it."
Yeah, I'd say that that's not the case, that they're lazy, but just looking at the past and like just the past Iowa State teams, it's like, man, like that Visor team not being a 1 seed is just the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. So, well, we got other news that happened today. We got Alan Lazard going to the Jets, and it sounds like that Aaron Rodgers is following him. So the rumor going around that I've heard is that Aaron Rodgers gave the Jets a checklist saying you have to do this for me to come, and Allen was on the checklist.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. He got paid. I mean, he's going to hook up with Brees. Obviously, that's going to be Iowa State.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of Jets fans in Ames now. And
it's just
it'll
awesome.
be so much fun.
What's awesome about it is like Brees is obviously going to be a stud, but sometimes when you're a running back and when you're honestly the Jets, that's not very good with replacing Rodgers with Wilson, even though Rodgers might be over the hill, but even if he's like just him with the last name, he's going to get way more attention, and Brees is obviously going to gain so much followers, and because Brees is freaking good, and they're going to be insane. But every time there's like a super team that comes like this, obviously I want them to succeed because Lazard and Brees are on it, and they played Iowa State, but I'll believe it when I see it when like a super team gets like that's not a super team, but like what 1 year where like all right. Like the Lakers that 1 year where they got Karl Malone and like Gary Payton and like, but I kind of feels like that. But football is such a different monster, and I think Brees having way more attention on him, and like him, like Brees, like versus Dave Montgomery's going to the Lions. Like obviously it's kind of like Lions are low key building slowly too, but they're not as flashy as the Jets because Jets are just going after home runs after home run with the Rodgers, and them actually hitting some draft picks with Brees and the receiver that won the Rookie of the Year. It's going to be pretty exciting, especially when Purdy's playing. I think this might be a great year to buy the Sunday ticket.
Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube TV now too.
Yeah, so this
yeah.
might
So
be the first
Garofalo got traded to the Raiders too. So I mean, they're setting the table for it sounds like that Brock is going to be able to start throwing this summer. So hopefully the surgery went well. We'll find out obviously, and hopefully Brees's surgery went well, and it'll be make it a little more interesting in Sundays because I've never had a dog in the fight with the NFL. I was more engaged with Brock's little run and Brees's run this fall than I've ever been. I mean, the only time I was ever really engaged with the NFL was when I was a Larry Zonka fan, when I was like 7 years old. I mean, that was a million years ago. They barely had face masks. And so having all of these guys involved in the NFL and having, they're not riding the bench either. I mean, David Montgomery's going to start. Alan Lazard's going to start. Brees should start. Brock should start. I mean, that's a reason to get engaged with the NFL, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So.
And especially like even like the kids in this like Iowa, just like the brand of Iowa State. When I was little, all I had was Seneca Wallace, and he was the backup, and Sage was the backup. Like it's a new element when you're watching players that had Iowa State uniforms on Sundays making huge plays and like having Purdy and Brees Hall on the forefront of like NFL talking points, and like Pat McAfee and Stephen A. Smith and like all like Skip Bayless talking about every time he's like Brock Purdy. I saw him at Iowa State. He's a guy who just likes to throw it up, and we'll pray for it. Obviously, it's hit him a couple times, but like he's just said that like that narrative, like obviously there's some just as an Iowa State fan, just think of Skip Bayless in mind. Look, just like only the Oklahoma games. Obviously, in the sophomore year, where almost led the comeback in the Petway pass interference that wasn't called, and if Kohler,
Kohler's wide open. Yeah.
If you're just throwing to Kohler, he saw that. He saw the Big 12 championship game where like Purdy, obviously he's the reason why we went to the freaking game. So I'm not trying to bash Purdy by any means. He threw the pick at the very end.
Well, Purdy threw that ball that Petway through a keyhole.
Yeah.
I mean, that was I couldn't believe he got it through there. I mean, but
And that game will.
He stopped listening to Skip. Skip can just cash his money and go sit in the
I'm just saying, like, just having the
suck his thumb.
Purdy and Breece Hall name in the forefront, and then like when I was little, I was always very I wish like seeing my Iowa classmates who were Iowa fans, like they get to watch like Dallas Clark, Bob Sanders, and like Chad, like so many players in the NFL, and like we had Seneca Wallace, God love him, made a lot of money in the NFL, holding the clipboard, and he caught a pass in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, obviously, we love Seneca, but just it's a new element when Purdy's
right. So
just exploded.
So the Hawkeyes are going to cheer for their offensive lineman.
Yeah,
I mean Micah Hyde
and Kittle, and like having Kittle and Purdy.
Oh, Kittle's fun. I mean I'm a Kittle fan. I mean he is so funny, and watching him and Brock go back and forth is. We obviously know Dallas a little bit, and Dallas knows Kittle, and just talked about how big of a hoot he is, and so it's a lot of fun. But it'll be a fun fall. But we need to come out and win on Friday. And it's tomorrow is one of the greatest days of the year. I mean, when that CBS theme song comes up, and you're going to watch games all day and probably lose some money in DraftKings or make some money. I mean,
it's honestly just hilarious how like fast, like it just like you have a bracket, you're very confident about it, and it's like the games turn on, and like literally 5 minutes, be like, all right, my team is down 13
right.
already,
right?
And just like go that fast. It's like, especially we always bring it back to the UAB and like the worst of the worst, but there's always the positive side. When we just keep winning, it's just like then people talk about us, and like obviously this year it's very similar to last year. I feel like we play a similar game where like it's not one. We can't just hold it into one player of why we're decent.
Right.
We have to talk about Lipsy, and there's just not exactly like one talking point where they can keep going back to, because I don't know. Obviously, sports media, hopefully, like keeping track of every team is very hard, but it's just very ironic how Iowa State's always like the one that. Just like, they obviously us losing the past when we're high seeds in the first round haven't helped our reputation in March. But whenever we're expected to not do anything in March is usually when we do something.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why when everybody's saying nobody's talking about us, that is totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, so Farley Dickinson, the game has already started, is already up. And that young man he's 5 years younger than me, I believe. He's the head coach at Farley Dickinson. It's from I-35 High School in Iowa, and he was in high school when I first started coaching. His dad was his coach, and his dad was a huge Bobby Knight fan. And then when I moved on from my first school to go to Winterset, I actually got an interview at an Air Force an Air Force base school in South Dakota after I took the Winterset job. And so then I told him I was going to come to the interview, and his dad took that job. So his dad moved out and was coaching in an Air Force base, and that was the last I heard of him. So It's kind of fun to watch him. I saw his picture. I go, man, he looks familiar, and he was good. I mean, he wasn't huge. He was playing small school Iowa basketball, and I think he went to a prep school after high school and got to play high school ball, or college ball. So it's kind of fun to see all of these Iowa connections that are on there, and he's kind of a random one. I mean, he's going from the I-35 Roadrunners to being on True TV as we speak, coaching, and so it's kind of cool.
And Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so if they would have followed our idea tonight, where you put somebody at home, so they would have to try to figure out who. So on the seating or the schedule, it says that Texas Southern is the home team, so they would be going to play at Texas Southern's home venue. That would be interesting.
That would be a
I have no idea where that's at.
That would be Texas. Whenever you hear Texas Southern in the name, it's like, all right, Texas Southern. Well, Southern is really Southern.
This sounds like it's hot.
Yeah, and
that's
hot,
all.
Hot
and really good food. That's all I keep thinking.
Hot and far away.
Yeah, and long drive. When we drive to Texas from Iowa, and when you hit the Texas border, you're halfway to San Antonio. It is a long ways.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I think we're gonna add a lot to talk about before the week's out.
So what do you think? What do you think?
We're talking about Sunday on Saturday. We got a podcast on Saturday to talk about the next game, and just hopefully we don't get any blindsides like somebody quit or somebody got hurt in practice, or how the Iowa State crap goes.
I hate like Bryce John Jones before Iowa type thing.
Yeah, no, we don't need that. And I saw you take a snarky comment about the frosted tips on Twitter the other day, and so the other thing too is that you see on Twitter that their post player from TCU. Name
Oh, Lampkin.
Teddy Lampkin. He's trying to advertise himself on Twitter. I mean, he would be. He's our guy. I mean, I would love to see him come play. As far as hopefully he fits in the character side of it. I have no idea. I don't know him personally at all, but it was kind of funny.
You know what's awesome, and I love this as an Iowa State fan, and just like as an Iowa State basketball fan. I feel like it wasn't like this a couple of years ago. I'm more confident in our coach, like picking out talent, than obviously us. We're like obviously Lampkin, like TJ's like. But obviously, we have Omaha and Milan come in, but like,
right?
Like I always,
they're
like,
not post players like that.
Like we always like look for players that hopefully our staff looks at. But like TJ is miles ahead of us, like just like a Robert Jones. Like his Robert Jones commitment from way back when has paid off so much.
Oh yeah, from Denver.
So it'll be fun.
All right, well, go Clones. I hope everybody gets 100% tonight or tomorrow on their bracket. So
that's statistically impossible.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Unless everyone does the same exact bracket.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Have a good one, guys.
See ya.
Bye.